Okay, welcome everyone to a new episode of our Recruiting Hot Seat. Joining us today, we have Jason Coomer, who is the Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics at Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri. Jason, welcome to the Recruiting Hot Seat.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to see you.
Jason, I know Jason for some years now, and you have led Lindenwood, which I would think a very big step moving into Division I, reclassifying as Division I. So you were a major player in that. But you also spent 14 years at Southern Illinois University, Eversville, first as a head tennis coach. After that, you were Senior Associate Athletic Director for External Affairs, and then you also were the Deputy Athletic Director. Jason, what else did I miss about you?
You know what? I think that makes up the last 17 years of my career. But getting started, I was a student athlete at the University of Southern Indiana, where I played tennis, and then left there to go to Ohio State to get my master's degree in sports management, and was there for a couple of years working in their athletics department. And then spent 5 up in Chicago at DePaul University before I made it to Southern Illinois, Edwardsville. So I've been in the Midwest quite a bit. Been doing this for, I guess, nearly 29 years when you count student athlete and working in administration. So it's been a minute, but I've loved every minute of it because I've got to meet people like you.
Well, it was a pleasure having you. You're one of the good guys, so I'm very happy you accepted to be in the hot seat. I know you're not afraid of challengers, so I'm gonna shoot 20 quick questions. I want quick answers. You want to keep it real, keep it simple, no scripts, no filters, just your best insights. This is the hot seat, so bring the heat and let's have some fun.
All right, let's go, Thomas.
All right, so college football, a necessity or a problem for athletic departments?
I don't think it's a problem at all. I think I wouldn't say it's a necessity from the standpoint that you have to have a successful athletics department. You look at a lot of Division I AAA schools currently that only have basketball, they don't have football, but it will certainly enhance the student experience. It brings a lot of pride to alumni, and it is a sport that generates a tremendous amount of revenue for the other sports. So, when you look at that across the board, football creates a lot of opportunities for other sports. I played tennis in college, and I knew that we weren't, operating in the black or generating revenue. So it wasn't lost on me where that came from. So I think it's a great opportunity for a campus as a whole to, establish a brand, but also provide opportunities for athletes who are not football players.
NIL, game changer or growing pain?
Both. There's not a moment or a week that I don't deal with the growing pains that have come along with NIL. So I would say it is certainly both, and it's ever evolving. So what you believe to be true last week may not be true this week.
Revenue sharing will have a positive impact on non-revenue sports like tennis.
I don't believe that it does. I don't believe revenue sharing helps a lot of our Olympic sports, and that's a major concern with those sports, those Olympic sports, and knowing that the U.S. has relied on colleges and universities to be the training ground for our Olympic athletes. That's a big concern.
If you could change one NCAA rule tomorrow, what would that one be?
Transfer portal.
That's funny because that's my next question. Today's transfer portal is the best thing for college sports.
No, I do not believe it is the best thing for college sports. I do support students' rights to be, or student athletes have the opportunity to make changes. Not everyone makes the right decision the first time in a recruiting process, but right now I feel it's completely out of control when you have, student athletes that have gone through 4 different schools in 4 different years. And with NIL being also a part of that decision-making process, I struggle with the lack of loyalty that is out there from that standpoint. Now, I know you can say coaches can come and go. I recognize that. But right now, the loyalty side of it, as we knew it 20 years ago, does not exist, in my opinion.
I'm with you 100%. $6 million a year quarterback versus $250,000 a year PhD cancer research professor and potential Nobel Prize candidate. What do you think?
I think I'm all for student athletes capitalizing on their name, image, and likeness. But this isn't something new. This topic that you bring up, we look at educators and teachers across the country for years have been underpaid, and they are the ones that are supposed to be shaping the minds of our future leaders. And you can go to any elementary school, high school, wherever you want. Same concept in place. I think our priorities may be a little bit misaligned with the example that you've given.
Biggest challenge athletic directors face right now?
Right now, all the uncertainty. This is, in all my years, this has been the busiest summer that I've ever had from an NCAA perspective, with the unknowns and not knowing what the future would lie or what lies in the future. But I'm hopeful that's going to change. But if you're to ask me the number one challenge we face outside of personnel management, because that's a never-ending thing, obviously, that's always going to be there, it's the uncertainty in the waters that we're navigating right now.
The future of college sports, more team calls versus additions.
Can you repeat that for me?
I'm going to cut that question.
Okay.
Because I'm reading it and I don't understand it myself. I don't know where that came from. Okay. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, so it is. Okay. The future of college sports, more teams being cut versus teams being added.
More teams being cut is my fear. I do not think let me say this. I do not hear a lot of conversations about institutions adding sports at this point. I think everyone's trying to get a handle on the house settlement and the revenue share aspects of that. So adding new expense without new revenue streams coming in, I think is problematic for the camp that would say adding sports is what's going to happen.
Smaller programs can stay competitive if they space.
They can stay more. Go ahead and repeat that real quick.
Smaller programs can stay competitive if they
find new revenue sources. The mid majors and the smaller Division I institutions are actively looking for new ways to generate revenue to stay competitive within the Division I landscape. I do think it's possible, and I think we're being forced to be even more efficient than we already are. But that's the great thing about mid majors and Division I. We've always had to find ways to do more with less. And that's just going to continue. But that being said, the assumption that all of the Power 4 schools, that they have unlimited amounts of capital to invest in the revenue share just isn't true. I mean, they're facing some of the same challenges that we face in the mid-major level. And I do think it's an opportunity at the mid-major level to close the gap on some of the larger Division I institutions, maybe the group of five, or anyone who would be in that top third from a Division I revenue standpoint.
Should the non-revenue sports market themselves differently to be able to survive?
I think really a lot of things when it comes to marketing, you talk about driving revenue. That is really what it's coming down to. You have to have a good product. You have to make sure you have a strong brand, and you have to make sure people know about it. You're not going to generate new revenue for your sport if people don't know about you or they don't find some connection to you. So yeah, I think you have to think outside the box about how you're positioning your programs to get more eyeballs on your student athletes in hopes that they're going to want to find opportunities to support you.
The NCAA has lost control of college athletics. You agree?
There is definitely less control, in my opinion, of college athletics, but I think there's quite a bit of shared responsibility in this. And this isn't something that just happened overnight. I think you can find a number of groups that have some accountability in this new world of Division I athletics. So I wouldn't solely put it on the NCAA. I think there are multiple groups. There's multiple influencers that have gotten us to this point. So I don't think it's just one person or one group.
The student part of the student athlete is getting lost in the shuffle.
I absolutely believe that is true.
When budget gets tighter, the first sport to get cut is, and why?
I don't know if there is one sport that just has the bullseye on it, because not every school offers the same sports. I think, there are factors that are going to be looked at when you look at that type of sport elimination discussion. You're going to look at, expense and revenue. You're going to look at the revenue that brings to the institution, because not everyone's on a full scholarship. You're going to look at the history of philanthropic giving. You're going to look at your the history of philanthropic giving for that sport. You may look at your facilities. Are they outdated? Do you have a legitimate chance to compete and give your student athletes the best experience? There's a variety of different metrics, and I think when you look at those metrics, that's what identifies a sport. It's not preconceived that sport X is going to be the first one to go if we have to make a decision.
But we have seen tennis being probably the most common sport being cut.
Absolutely. There's been a number of tennis programs that have been eliminated over the years. But each institution, each campus, I think, is a little bit different. But unfortunately, my sport that, we got to know each other, has seen a lot of programs that have been eliminated.
What is the hardest decision you have had to make as an athletic director that people disagreed with?
Sport elimination.
I knew you were going to say that. Recruiting today versus 5-10 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Where do you start? I think for recruiting today versus 5 or 10 years ago, there's a lot more people that want to be involved in a recruiting process. With the establishment of NIL agents that are out there trying to, in their minds, support their student athletes or their students, and finding a university, I think that's been a big change. I think that there is some, it's more bottom line. What are you going to do for me if I come to your school? Mm-hmm. I don't think people were as forward about that 10 years ago. There's a preconceived notion that everybody's getting paid on top of their scholarship if they come to your university, which just is not accurate across the country. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about that. I think there are unfortunately not as many people that are picking institutions that are right for them to continue their academic and athletic career versus picking the school or university that they think they can get the most from. And I think you see a lot of people going into the portal and those numbers going up because decisions made on the front side of the recruiting process to go to a certain school were made for the wrong reasons. They get there, they're unhappy, and then they find themselves in a portal and try to find a new home. And so those are things that I see from a recruiting standpoint. I will also say that I see a lot more family involvement in recruiting versus letting your students handle their recruiting process. I can tell you as a former coach, if you were to say, did you ever miss on recruiting? And I can tell you, yes, I did miss on a couple recruits, and I can tell you who they were. And when I look back on it, what was similar about both recruits was their parents did all the talking. The kids did not handle their own recruitment.
So on that same line, recruiting agency or not?
I think it's going to be the individual. There's going to be some that are going to be highly sought after from the very beginning of their high school career. There's going to be some that are late developers, late bloomers. I think it really depends on the individual, but more importantly, it depends on the quality of the agency that you use. As you well know, you and I worked together in the past, and I could count on one hand and have fingers left over to tell you how many agencies I actually trusted, and USP was number one on my list. So I think that's even more critically important is the selection of that agency, because just because you have an agency doesn't mean it's going to be a good relationship or good situation, or they're going to act in your best interest. So I think you have to be very careful with that. But certainly a fan of the work the USP does.
How do international athletes fit into the future of college recruiting?
I think it's critical. people often ask me, well, where do you recruit? Do you just recruit in Missouri and Illinois? And I say, we recruit where the athlete is. It doesn't matter if they're up the street, if they're 2 states over, or they're halfway around the world. If you can play, and we want you. I don't worry about where you're from. If you're an athlete, you can help us be successful, and you're going to be committed to academics, I want you at Lindenwood.
The underrated factor in recruiting is?
I think a lot of times people get so caught up in athletic ability. And I often say, if I have my choice of finding a good player, well, let me back up. If I have my choice, I want a great player and a great person. But if I have to sacrifice great player and good person, one of the two, I'm sacrificing the great player. Because I'm confident our coaches can take a good player and make them great. I'm not so confident if you're not a good person in the first 18 years of your life that I can change you in the 4 years that I have with you. Maybe you change that, out of 10 times, maybe you can change that 3 out of 10 times, but it only takes one of those 7 that don't work out to tear your locker room apart. So that is probably something I would say is people don't think about a lot, but character is important and is something that if we don't pay attention to that in the recruiting process, that's on us. So I think that we have to spend a lot of time on that, and we do here at Lindenwood.
Well said. Well said. The immediate biggest red flag when recruiting is?
Families doing all the talking and not the kid.
In one sentence, continue to what you just said. In one sentence, parents' most important role is?
Support their student and allow them to make the decisions that's best for them, and not the decision that they can go back to their local block party or neighborhood association meeting or tennis club or country club and say, my kid's going to this school that is so prestigious. While that's good for them, that may not be good for the student. It's nice to get all the gear that has that school's name on it, but if you're not going to play and you're not going to be happy, what are you really doing?
Excellent. In one sentence, your best advice to the kids?
Once you make your decision, don't look back.
Okay, I got one more. Last one.
Okay.
So what makes Lindenwood such a special university? You seem so passionate about the place you are and the program that you work for. What is it so special about your school?
There's a lot of things. I think, to start out, this institution is driven by student athletes. Over 20% of our 20% of our students here are student athletes. Over a third of our housing is made up of student athletes. We have 560 Division I athletes here. So the culture of Lindenwood was heavily influenced by student athletes. And we have a president here that is competitive as any of my student athletes that wants to win. We got a board of trustees group that is very supportive and understands what it takes to win. And probably the most important thing is we just have good people. I think the people make the experience, and our staff here, like a lot of staffs across the country, really care about the student athlete experience. A lot of people can say it, but we do it here. And it's a joy every day to be able to come in, because people talk about family and preach family all the time. I get it. And there's a lot of schools out there that do it, and they do it well. So I'm not going down that path. But what I will say is that there are no silos or any barriers here between our teams. Mm-hmm. Our doors are open. I've got kids that come in and sit on my couch in my office. It's just the culture that we have here.
Well, and they got a great person in you. So I guess Lindenwood is lucky to have you. But listen, Jason, that's a wrap for today. You did a great job on the recruiting hot seat. So big thanks to Jason Coomer for sharing straight talk and powerful insights. And for everybody who's watching this, if you really enjoyed it, make sure to share, just follow us. And we're going to continue introducing great guests like Jason in our next episodes. So remember, this is no fluff, no waste of time. This is Recruiter Hot Seat. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas.